hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of the machines and the occasional shuffle of nurses' feet. The fluorescent light above flickered slightly, casting a pale glow over my swollen belly as I lay on the bed, my hand gently resting on it. The contractions had started hours ago, subtle at first, like whispers in the wind. Now, they roared like thunder. I was alone. Not because I didn't have people in my life, but because those who were supposed to be there had let me down. My husband, Tunde, hadn't spoken to me in days. Not since he discovered that the baby wasn't a boy as he'd hoped. He'd stormed out, leaving me in tears, accusing me of failing him, as if gender was mine to choose. His family, who once called me their diamond, now ignored my calls. My own mother had passed away 2 years ago. Cancer had taken her, and with her, a piece of my soul. I felt another wave of pain tear through me, and I screamed. My mouth opened wide as the tears came. Not just from the pain, but from everything. Being alone, being judged, being abandoned when I needed love the most. A kind nurse named Amaka rushed in. She held my hand, whispering, "You're strong, Mama. You're almost there." I wanted to believe her, but fear kept crawling up my spine. What if something happened to me? What if this baby came into the world only to know loneliness and rejection? As the minutes passed, the contractions grew stronger. I was now drenched in sweat, holding tightly to the metal bars of the bed. I could feel the baby pushing. The drip attached to my wrist pumped fluids into my veins, but what I really needed was strength, from somewhere, anywhere. Just then, I remembered my mother's words the night before she died. Life will push you to your knees, but don't ever forget that you were born to rise. I wiped my tears with my trembling hand and let out a guttural cry, not just from pain but from power. I was about to bring life into the world. Even if I had to do it alone. Even if I had to fight with every breath. Because in a few hours, I would meet the one person who would love me without condition. My baby. And that thought alone was enough to keep going. The clock on the wall ticked louder with each passing second. The pain came in waves, sharper, longer, deeper. I screamed again, my voice echoing off the white hospital walls. Amaka was still beside me, dabbing my forehead with a cold towel, whispering soft encouragements. But inside me, a storm was raging. Memories came flooding in. Tunde's face, cold and angry. His voice, laced with disappointment. "How can you give me a girl?" he had said. As if this innocent child inside me was a mistake. As if she didn't deserve to live. I clenched my fists. Another contraction hit. Harder. I cried again, not just from the physical pain, but from the heartbreak of being unloved at the moment I needed love the most. Suddenly, the door flung open. It wasn't Tunde. It was my best friend, Uju. She rushed to my side, her eyes wide with panic and love. "You didn't think I'd let you do this alone, did you?" she asked, holding my hand tightly. I couldn't speak. I was too overwhelmed, too broken. But in that moment, something in me shifted. I wasn't completely alone. I had someone who cared. Someone who remembered me when others forgot. "Doctor." Amaka called. "She's fully dilated." Everything happened fast after that. The doctor walked in with 2 more nurses. The room was a blur of movement. Gloves snapping on, bright lights above, people shouting instructions. Uju never let go of my hand. I felt like I was dying, but I was also coming alive. I screamed, pushed, cried. I fought. And after what felt like an eternity, there was silence, followed by a cry. The cry of my baby. My daughter. My miracle. They placed her on my chest, and I looked into her tiny eyes, filled with innocence, life, and strength. Tears rolled down my cheeks again. This time, not from pain, but from joy. I whispered to her, my voice shaking, "You are not a mistake. You are my purpose." Uju bent close, stroking the baby's cheek. "She's perfect." I nodded. "She is." And in that moment, everything changed. Tunde's absence no longer mattered. The rejection, the loneliness, the judgment, it all faded. because lying on my chest was a new beginning. A reason to keep going. A reason to heal. A reason to believe again. Her name? Ziora, the light that brings joy. And truly, she was my light after the darkest storm. 3 weeks had passed since Ziora was born. 3 weeks of sleepless nights, gentle lullabies, quiet feedings, and unexpected smiles. My body was still sore, my emotions still raw, but every time I looked into her eyes, I knew I'd made it through the storm for a reason. Uju stayed with me for the first week after we left the hospital. She cooked, cleaned, and watched over us like a guardian angel. She even sang to Ziora, calling her Mema's reward. And she was right. Ziora was everything I never knew I needed. But just when life began to feel peaceful, the past came knocking. One rainy afternoon, I heard a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it, and froze. It was Tunde. He stood there, soaked in the rain, holding a plastic bag of baby supplies, powder, diapers, baby wipes. He looked thinner. His eyes were sunken. His hands shook. I heard you gave birth, he said softly. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. Is the baby okay? She's perfect, I replied coldly. Tunde sighed, lowering his head. I've been stupid. I let my pride blind me. I know I don't deserve to be here, but I want to see her. Just once. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just stepped aside. He walked in, slowly, like a man entering a sacred place. Then he saw her, Ziora, sleeping peacefully in her little cot. His eyes filled with tears. She looks just like my mother, he whispered. I watched him closely. Part of me wanted to scream, to pour out all the pain, to tell him how I cried for him in the hospital, how I screamed his name through my labor, how I had begged for his love and got silence in return. But another part of me, perhaps the part that had healed, just watched silently. Tunde dropped to his knees by the cot. I don't know how to ask for forgiveness, he said, his voice shaking. But if you give me a chance, I want to do right by both of you. I folded my arms, unmoved. You left us, Tunde. Not just physically, emotionally. What if I had died? Would you still be standing here with tears? He nodded slowly. I would never forgive myself if you had. That's why I'm here. I've changed. I want to change. We stood in silence for a long while. Then I walked over to the cot, picked up Ziora, and held her close. She doesn't need a perfect father, I said. She needs a present one. If you want to be in her life, prove it. Be there. Show up. Consistently. No more disappearing. No more pride. He looked up at me like a man who'd been given a second chance. I will, he said. I'm not giving you another chance for me, I added. This is for her. And with that, the door to the past didn't close, but it didn't stay wide open either. It stayed ajar, just enough for growth, for redemption, and maybe, someday, for forgiveness. 3 months had passed since the day Tunde came back into our lives. He came with flowers, baby gifts, and words that melted like honey. He apologized every morning, held Ziora in his arms like a proud father, and told me he wanted us to start over. Slowly, against my better judgment, I allowed him in. For our daughter's sake. He began staying over more often, claiming he wanted to bond with his child. He'd watch her sleep, feed her, sing lullabies he never knew before. Sometimes, I'd catch myself watching him and wondering if people really could change. But peace has a way of hiding storms. And mine was just about to explode. One evening, while folding baby clothes in the bedroom, Tunde's phone buzzed on the table. He was in the bathroom. I ignored it at first, but the name that popped up stopped my breath. Uju. See you tonight, baby. I wore your favorite red lace. I froze. The same Uju who held my hand during labor. The same Uju who rocked my baby to sleep. The same Uju I called sister. My hands trembled. I opened the message thread. What I saw shattered me. Pictures. Voice notes. Hidden hotel meetups. Kisses exchanged while I nursed a child. The affair had been going on before I gave birth. They'd only paused when I almost died. I couldn't breathe. I dropped the phone, clutched my chest, and screamed, loud, raw, broken. Tunde ran out of the bathroom, dripping wet. "What happened?" he shouted. I threw the phone at him. "Read it yourself." He tried to talk. I didn't let him. "You looked into my eyes, Tunde. You held our daughter and swore you had changed. You knew how broken I was, and still, you and Uju. My voice cracked. He began to stammer. "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." I laughed bitterly, wiping hot tears from my face. "So you lied to me, and slept with the only person who stood by me when you left." Ziora began to cry in her crib, disturbed by my shouts. I picked her up, held her close, and said to Tunde with a calm I didn't know I had, "Get out. And don't come back." "But," I said, "leave. Before I forget, I just gave birth and do something unholy." Tunde stood frozen for a moment, then picked up his shirt and shoes and walked out the door. That night, I packed Uju's things too. She came the next morning, pretending not to know what happened. But I looked her straight in the eye. "I trusted you," I said coldly. "You were in the delivery room while secretly sleeping with the man who abandoned me. You held my hand with the same fingers you used to betray me." Uju dropped her eyes. For once, she had no words. I survived childbirth. I survived abandonment. And now, I'll survive betrayal. But you'll never find peace while dancing on someone's pain. She left in silence. Now, it's just me and Ziora again. But this time, I'm not afraid. I've faced death, betrayal, and heartbreak, and I'm still standing. Not just for me, but for the little girl watching me grow stronger every day. And one day, I'll tell her this story. Not to make her hate her father. Not to shame those who betrayed me. But to teach her one truth. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And when life breaks you, rise twice as strong.